If you think Amazon's fees are way too high, and more importantly, if you think it's the reason as to why you're failing as a bookseller on Amazon, or really just an Amazon seller in general, I'm just gonna straight up tell you right now to your face that you're just lying to yourself. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that there are fees and then Amazon is going to charge you to sell products or books on the marketplace. Like, I get that, but far too often do I think people hide behind the reality as to why they're failing in their book business. And so I'm going to do that today, straight up to your face, going to tell you the hard truth and see if you can stomach it or not. And if you want to leave a nasty comment in the comment section, feel free to do so because that is your right and you're able to do that if you want. But understand that doing that is not going to help you automatically become a successful bookseller or a successful Amazon seller. And complaining about Amazon's fees also is not going to help you become a better seller, a bookseller. So my goal today is to show you what the actual fees are so that you have a realistic expectation of what sorts of books you need to be selling on Amazon in order to be making a profit. And again, all I really want to do is to help you become a better bookseller, but just far too often in the Amazon FBA Facebook groups, specifically the Book Flipper, Facebook community group, because I'm a bookseller. There's just people all the time going, Amazon's fees are just way too high. I cannot succeed because it's Amazon's fault. The reality is that it's not Amazon's fault. It's your fault. And so I'm going to go ahead and hopefully convince you, and let's dive right in. So the first thing is I don't think people understand what the fees are. And so people get really excited and they watch these YouTube gurus like Joji Davenport, and they're like, YouTube makes it seem so awesome and so easy, and they don't really understand the fees. And maybe I don't do a good enough job of explaining that. And again, that's why I'm making this video, so that I can explain to you what the fees are, so you can see what is actually needed for you to make a profit when you do sell a book. But easiest way to do this is just dive into our screen. You're in Amazon Seller Central. What you need to type in up here at the search bar is just FBA calculator. And when you do that, you'll get a revenue calculator. So come down here where it says revenue calculator, click on that, click on this button which says revenue calculator. And the first thing that you need to do is understand what the fees are. If you're buying a book for $1, let's say you aim to sell for 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 or 50 or $100 for that matter, you need to understand quickly whether or not there is a possibility that you're going to make money, lose money, and if so, how much. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and where it says search the Amazon catalog, I'm just gonna throw in an ASIN there. So here's an ASIN. It looks like it's a textbook, okay? Now, over here on the left, we're gonna go ahead and specifically I'm gonna focus on Amazon FBA. If you wanna also focus on your fulfillment, which would be merchant fulfilled seller, then feel free to do that here. But the first thing that you have to understand, and this is probably the number one thing the booksellers get wrong, and it's probably the number one reason why you're failing if you're watching this video and you feel attacked right now because I'm blaming you and not Amazon, is that you probably don't understand how to price your books. And this is something like, in order to understand what to price a book at, you actually need to rely on historical data to make an educated guess about what you can sell the book for. So many people look at what the current price of a book is and just assume that's what they should list the book for. And while that may work for you in some instances, I would argue that that's actually a very poor way to price your inventory, because what you should really be looking at is what has the book consistently sold for in the past. Yet with scanning apps such as Scout IQ or Scoutly, which do make it very easy to see what current prices are, to see what merchant fulfilled prices are, and to see what Amazon FBA prices are, it just stops there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just a limit to what the softwares can do. But it's also one of the reasons why so many people fail, is because they might find a book that they scan that says they can sell for $18, but the reality and the truth is, if you were just to understand how to read a Keepa graph and look at the historical selling data of that book, you'd realize that is not a book that you should send to Amazon. It's not a book that has value. It is not a book that sells for $18. Even despite the fact, I know that's crazy. The book's price is $18 on Amazon, but it doesn't sell for that. And so that's the number one hurdle that I think is that, I don't know whether it's just not knowing, so it's an ignorance, which again is not a bad thing, because if you're willing to learn, then you could easily rectify this problem. I don't know if it's ignorance, I don't know if it's laziness, I don't know if it's inability to read a Keepa graph, but the only software that you need to sell on Amazon successfully, the only software, is Keepa. And no, I'm not affiliated with Keepa. I wish I were, because I'd be a millionaire. Keepa is essentially a software that allows you to access historical selling data for products that Keepa tracks on Amazon. Now, to get Keepa, you simply just go to keepa.com and pay for a subscription. I think it's like $20 a month. And again, I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not sending them, your way. I'm not trying to sell you on a course or sell you on a software. I'm just simply telling you there's only one software that you need to be successful as an Amazon bookseller or an Amazon seller, and that is Keepa. And you're like, Joji, but what about Celeran? But what about Bookmind, my own software? What about, GoToLister? Or what about all these other softwares out there? You don't need them. You really don't need them to run a successful business. You only need one software, and that is Keepa. Again, hear what I'm saying. You don't even need my software. You don't even need Bookmind. You only need one software, and that is Keepa. Now, surely I have other softwares that I use in my business. I created Bookmind with Victor. I'm not saying that those other softwares aren't helpful and they won't help you become a better bookseller. They obviously will if you use them right. I'm just saying there's only one software you need, and that's Keepa. And the reason why you need Keepa is for this purpose right here, item price, what you're going to sell your book or your product for. You need to be able to understand what the value of your item is in terms of what you can sell it for. Because if you know what you can sell the book for with a very high probability, with an educated guess, then based upon the Amazon fees, which we'll go over here in a second, and the purchase price of that, you can know whether or not you're going to be profitable or not be profitable if it were to sell in that range at which you think the book should sell for. So if you're somebody who's like, okay, what the heck is Keepa, Joji? Well, you can go to my YouTube channel and you can simply type in Keepa tutorial. Maybe I'll even show some Keepa tutorials on the screen here, but you need to be able to read a graph, to look at historical selling data, to say that, oh, okay, so this book that I want to sell, it's important that I understand what it has sold for in the past, how often it sells, so that I have a realistic expectation of what's going to happen when it shows up at the warehouse. So many people just will scan a book with Scott or Scally. Oh, I can sell the book for $16. That's the FBA slot number 1. I'm going to send it to Amazon and completely forget about it and not look at any historical selling data. And what that leads to is people sending in a bunch of junk books and then sitting here complaining about how Amazon's fees are too high and why that's the reason they're failing. That's not the reason why you're failing. The reason why you're failing is because you sent junk books into Amazon because you didn't understand that that book that you bought didn't actually have any value and wouldn't actually sell. In other words, it was your fault. It wasn't Amazon's fault. Okay? So that's the number one thing, really, is understand how to figure out what your book is likely to sell for. Because when you understand what the book is likely to sell for, you have a better understanding of whether or not you should send the book to Amazon or not. I'll tell you this right now. If I had a coaching session with all the people who say why they're failing and how it's Amazon's fees fault, right? It's Amazon's fault and not their own fault. The first thing that I would do is go to their inventory page and look at what inventory they have and look at the Keepa graphs of those books and go, why did you send that book to Amazon? Why did you send that book to Amazon? Why did you send that book to Amazon? I wouldn't send that book to Amazon. Why did you send the book to Amazon? And they go, well, Scott IQ or Scoutly or GoToLister or some software told me that it's going to sell for this price. And again, you have to understand that the softwares are just telling you what the current prices of those books are. They're not actually telling you what the book has historically sold for. So if you actually take the time to educate yourself, literally just 1 hour, and watch a Keepa tutorial, not even that I made. I mean, I did make some, and you feel free to watch that. I was a high school teacher, so I'm pretty good at teaching people. So feel free to watch my tutorial videos, or again, this is not a pitch for my YouTube channel either. Watch anyone else's Keepa tutorials. If you are willing to sit down and take half as much time as you are willing to sit there, keyboard warrior, and write about how Amazon is the reason why you're failing, and actually watch a Keepa tutorial video, you will start to understand why the real issue and the real problem is you in the books that you sent to Amazon and not Amazon themselves. If you're sending in bad books, start sending in good books. If you start sending in good books, then all of a sudden you'll start to see how things change around. And again, of course, you're going to pay Amazon fees, right? That's just a given. Complaining about them doesn't help you in any way. It doesn't help anyone else in any way. You need to understand the fees. Again, we're going to go over those fees here in a second. But once you understand what to price a book at, now all of a sudden you have a more realistic understanding of whether or not you could be profitable and if you should send the book to the Amazon warehouse or not. Okay, so let's just pretend for this book, which I'm going to kind of be a hypocrite here. I'm not even going to look at the Keepa graph of this book. But let's say you looked at the Keepa graph and you identified you think this book could sell for $50. Now we're going to base all of our calculations, all of the fees off of this $50, and we'll then play up a couple scenarios for what your purchase price of this book would be or need to be at in order to be profitable. Okay. So the first thing that you need to understand, which is actually not baked into any of these fees here on the revenue calculator, is that it does cost money to actually sell products on Amazon. If you're an individual seller, meaning you have less than 40 products listed on Amazon, you're paying a 99 cents per item listing fee. Now, if you're under 40 units, you're essentially a baby. I would consider it not even a side hustle. It's just you're dipping your toe. You're dipping your pinky toe into the water. You're not even really giving it a chance. You're just like, I'm going to throw 30 or 40 bucks or under 40 bucks in there and see what happens. you're really not even giving it a chance, in my opinion. Once you go 40 plus items, you're just paying a fixed cost of $39.99 a month, which is obviously meaning that the amount you're paying for each item listed on Amazon goes down and down the more items you have. So once you get to 200 to 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 to 5,000, however high you go, obviously that cost goes down, down, and down. Now, first thing that you need to understand is that no matter what book you sell, whether it's a book you sell for $10 or a book you sell for 100 or 1,000, you're going to be paying right off the top 15% to Amazon. You know that. We all know that. Okay, so understand that if you want to sell a book on Amazon and it does sell, whatever that sell price is, 15% right off the top goes to Amazon. And now that doesn't mean that you can't be profitable. That just means that's just a fact. That's a given. Okay, so you can see here, based upon a $50 sell price for this book, you'd be paying $7.50 as a referral fee to Amazon. Now you're sitting back in the chair going, 15%? What did you even do, Amazon? What did Amazon do for? Oh, okay. So Amazon gave you access to a platform with over 100 million customers where you don't have to drive any traffic to, and they'll deal with all the customer support and the shipping. And of course, there'll be other fees for them to do that. But I don't think people understand and realize how hard it is to run a business on your own, meaning you set up your own independent bookstore website where you have to figure out how to drive traffic to. So are you going to, if you're someone out there going, oh, I can't deal with 15%, that's just way too high. Okay, so you're going to make your own website, host your own website where you have to pay monthly fees to host that website. Then you're going to have to make sure that you actually drive traffic there. And you're either going to have to pay for advertisements to get people to go to your website to just even figure out what your bookstore is or where it's at, or start some sort of social media presence where now people are actually following you and that like the content that you produce, and then making their way to your bookstore and then purchasing there. Now, that might be free, posting videos on social media, but there's a time cost to it as well. And time is money and money is time, right? So even if it's just you spending your time, there's still a cost to that monetarily. So 15% seems like a lot, but for 100 million customers and they drive the traffic to the website and they find the buyer for you, I think that's a steal. I think Amazon fees are way too low. That might be a hot take, but I'm actually glad that they're, or I shouldn't say, I'm excited that they're 15%. I'm like, that's crazy. I don't have to have my own website. I don't have to drive traffic to it. That's crazy that they're willing to do that for just 15%. Okay, let's continue. There's a variable closing fee no matter what book it is and no matter what the price that the book sells for. You will be paying $1.80 as a variable closing fee. Okay, next thing is going to be the fulfillment cost. If you send your books to Amazon, which is what we're doing here with the calculator, meaning you take your book, you ship it to an Amazon warehouse, they store it there. When someone buys it, they pick it, they pack it, they ship it to the customer, and then deal with all the customer service and all the returns. They're going to charge you a fulfillment fee. Now, understand that even if you ship the book to the customer yourself through merchant fulfilled selling, you still have to pay for shipping to the customer. You actually have to spend your time picking the book, packing it, putting it in an envelope that you had to buy, shipping it off to the warehouse, going ahead and responding to customer complaints about how there's a highlighting mark on the letter T on page 34 of the first chapter of the book. Like, you have to deal with that customer service. And if they want to return, you're going to be the one that have to deal with the return, pay for return shipping, right? There's still a cost to that, right? But here with this book, if we sell it for $50, we're getting charged $6.24 as a fulfillment cost here, okay? And that fulfillment cost is essentially going to be broken down into basically a calculation of the dimensions of the book and the weight of the book. So if you want to look at the calculation, come here and look at the calculation, learn more about the FBA fulfillment fee, and we can see that it's simply just a function of a couple things, which is essentially the tier, the size of the book, and also the weight of the book. So you can see how the fulfillment fee goes up as the product gets larger and larger and heavier, which makes sense. You sell a book that's really, really light, guess what? It costs you less. You sell a book that's really heavy and it's really big and bulky, guess what? It's going to cost you more. So understand that when you're thrifting books and you find a book that is featherweight and very light, the fees of this are going to be lower for fulfillment. Or you find this massive encyclopedia that's huge and weighs 10 pounds. That's going to be a lot of money to ship that book to Amazon. So understand and have that in the back of your head. Okay, so for this particular book, this is what they use, the dimensions, and they use the weight to determine that $6.24 is what they're going to charge me for the pick, pack, and ship fee to the customer. Again, awesome, because remember, while you could save a little bit of money by spending your time doing it, understand that your time is valuable. Your time is actually worth something. Okay. Time is money and money is time. There's a reason why people say that. Now, there could be service add-ons, or there's options here, but you wouldn't use any of those if you're a bookseller, if through Amazon FBA. Amazon does all that stuff for you. Okay. Next thing is the storage cost. People complain all the time, but Joji, what about I have to hold this book for 6 months before I sell it? Storage fees are just absolutely going to kill me. Not really, if you take a look at it. January through September, or October through December. So based upon when this book is being held, you can see 7 cents up to 14 cents for this book. I would say it's pretty low. Okay, it's a pretty small fee considering that they are willing to hold your book at their warehouse, where if it gets damaged, they will reimburse you for the damage. So unlike you storing the book at your own house, let's say, your cat jumps up on the bookshelf and spills, it knocks into the plant and the plant falls over and the water drips onto the book and all of a sudden the book is damaged. Oh, you're out of luck on that book. I guess you're not getting reimbursed for that book. Or, God forbid something terrible happens, the house burns down. All that inventory is gone. You're not getting reimbursed for any of that. Or should we even talk about the fact that it actually costs money to live somewhere? You're paying rent or you have a mortgage. There's actually like a real cost to the square footage in your home. So if you are holding inventory or holding books in your house and that's taking up space, you're technically paying for that space because you're paying a monthly mortgage or a monthly rent payment. So very nominal fee there. Next thing is the inbound shipping cost. If you're going to ship your book to an Amazon warehouse, you've got to get all of your books and put them in a box, get that shipped to the Amazon warehouse. Now, based upon your inbound placement options, minimal shipment splits or partial shipment or Amazon optimized shipment splits, you're going to be paying a different fee for that book. Now, for this particular book, it's estimating 49 cents, okay? I generally just overestimate at usually like 75 cents a pound, which comes out to, 80 cents a book, something like that. Now, the next thing is to put in a miscellaneous cost or a cost of goods sold. So I do online book arbitrage, so I send my books to a prep center and they charge me $2.25 to prep the book. In other words, they do all the work of, receiving the inventory, receiving the book that I purchased, opening it up, inspecting the book, making sure that it's good, then shipping off to the Amazon warehouse. Again, I do have to pay inbound shipping fee still. All they're doing is prepping the book, listing it, and shipping it for me. So miscellaneous costs, you can put one in there. And then the cost to get sold. What did you buy the book for? Did you buy the book for 50 cents? Did you buy the book for $10? Did you buy the book for $25? Obviously, that's going to change your profit. So let's pretend you got it at a thrift store for $1. Well, this is easy. This is a home run. If you bought the book for $1 and you do think that it can sell for 50 because you actually understand how to look at historical sales because you looked at a Keepa graph, then you would know pretty quickly, you should know pretty quickly that this is going to be a profitable book. You can see that my cost per unit is essentially, and so let's say you got it at a thrift store, so your miscellaneous cost is $0. Your all-in cost for this one book is $17.10. That includes all the fees. That includes the cost of, $1 for the book. That includes the 15% referral fee right off the top, the variable closing fee, the shipping fee, the inbound shipping fee, and then the storage, or did I say storage fees? Storage fees. So all those fees together, $17. You're left with a net profit of $33 and a net margin of 65%, which is incredible. One of the reasons why I love selling books is because the margins are literally unheard of. Like most of these other businesses, like restaurants, like most restaurants, I'm sure in your local community just close. Like, and there's a new restaurant that replaces it, and then it closes, and a new one comes in. The restaurant business, I want to say is like 3, 4, 5, 6%, right? I want to say in general, most brick and mortar businesses are running under 10%. If you think of other traditional online arbitrage, wholesale, you're talking 15% or less. Like books is really the way to go because the margins are insane. That's why I love book selling, is because it's one of the ways where you can start with nothing and make something for yourself. You can start with nothing, and as long as you're sending good books into Amazon, it can actually make great money because of the fact that you get the inventory for so low relative to what you can sell the books for. Now, let's just change a couple things up here. Let's say the cost of goods sold, meaning what you had to buy this book for, is $25. So let's say you're going to say, hey, college student, this book I know has value. I think it's sell for $50. I'll give you $25 for it. Well, put the 25 into the calculator. Well, if you put $25 into the calculator, now you're only making $8.90 profit and a 17% profit margin. Okay. So clearly understanding that you spending more to buy the book will impact your profitability, right? Now, some other things that would change is, let's go back to this. Let's say you bought it for $1. Well, let's pretend that this book, we looked at a Keepa graph, we looked at historical selling data, and we think it only can sell for $15. Well, Would we send it in? Well, just put the numbers in. You go down here. If I send it and I sell for $15, I'm going to make a $3 profit and a 21% margin. Now, you have to ask yourself, is that worth it to you? I can't answer that for you. I can tell you that's not worth it to me. I'm not willing to do all that work just to make $3 profit. So I would say no to that. But if that's worth it to you, then sure, do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you value your time and you're like, I'm only going to make $3 profit on this book if I sell it at my target price, then do that. That's fine. And that's the other point that I wanted to make. So remember, the first point is that most people, either through ignorance or laziness or, just not wanting to put in the work or effort, don't read Keepa graphs and don't look at the books that they're buying beyond scanning the book with the scanning software that just tells you current live data, which is in most cases a not very accurate picture of what the actual book is worth, or at best is a sort of mediocre sort of picture of what the book is actually worth. Okay. Now, the second point that I'm trying to make here is that people are sending in books with too low of average selling prices. So you have to understand that in order to actually start making profit with books that you're selling on Amazon like that, the average selling price has to start getting higher. Like you can't just sell $8 or $9 or $10 books unless you're at massive scale and make money doing it, because you're just not making very much money on each individual book. And so my number one recommendation for anyone that's starting to sell books on Amazon is, one, understand how to read a Keepa graph so you can understand what books sell for, to use that as a way to then send in better books to Amazon, books that are going to sell for higher prices. And this is, wherein lies the real issue that people are having. The real issue that you're probably having is that you're not able to find inventory that is going to sell at a high enough price relative to what you can buy the book for, and subtracting on Amazon fees, where you can make a profit. And so you might be going to a Goodwill, or you might be going to a local thrift store, showing up and scanning, maybe 500 books on the bookshelf. And then let's say you accept, a couple of percent and you bring back, 20 books and you send them all to Amazon. But the average selling price of all those books is going to be $12 or $13. Well, guess what? You're not going to be successful not because of Amazon's fees, but because you didn't find the right books. You didn't find the books that you need in order to be profitable. Okay. So that means you have a sourcing problem. You have to figure out, where can I find inventory that meets my criteria? So maybe you want your average selling price to be higher, of $20, $25, $30. Where can I find better inventory? In other words, how can I do a better job of selecting the books that sell for less, or deselecting the ones that sell for less and selecting those books that sell for more? Well, you've got to be creative. You've got to figure out a way to find that inventory, whether that's somehow finding a way to get backroom access to a thrift store, to get access to books before they're scanned, whether that's buying college textbooks, which generally have average higher selling prices, whether that just means simply scanning more books to try to find those books at a higher price. Like, they're out there. You just got to put in the work to find those right books. Okay. I know this video is already really long. It's probably getting close to 30 minutes here. Again, I come at you from a good place. I come at you trying to help you, to try to just put everything in front of you and like shake you and go like, wake up. It's not Amazon that's causing you to fail. It's what you're doing and not doing that's causing you to fail right now. Plenty of people are successful selling on Amazon because they figured out how to source inventory and sell that inventory at a price where the differential minus all the Amazon fees gives them profit, or gives them money, makes them money. Okay. So to wrap up this video, the real reason why you're failing on Amazon is not because of Amazon's fees. It's because you're likely not understanding that the books you're sending to Amazon are books you should not be sending there. You're sending in junk books. You're sending in garbage books. And I know what you're saying. Well, if it's not Amazon's fault, it's the thrift store's fault then. They're the ones that are selling the book. Oh, wait, no, not the thrift stores. The YouTubers taught them. It's the YouTuber's fault. Wait, but I thought the YouTuber taught you how to sell books on Amazon, right? So it all comes back full circle. The reality is that any business is not easy. The reality is that to be successful, just in life in general, is that you have to work, you have to be willing to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and be creative and clever and figure out a way to make it work. What's likely happening is that all your thrift stores, your Goodwills, all of those free books or close to free books are all drying up because times have changed. Goodwill has had people watch YouTube videos. It has said, oh, wow, so we're selling books for dollars that we could be selling for 10, 20, 30, 50 bucks on Amazon. Okay, well, let's adapt as a business and learn how to do that. And so that's what they did. And guess what? Everyone else who's now willing to adapt with them is all left behind, right? And those are the people that are upset and complaining about how Amazon fees are the reason why they're failing. So you have to be creative. You have to think about other ways to find inventory. What did I do? I said, well, Goodwill is taking these books, selling them on Amazon. Well, it's pretty obvious to me that they're not looking at Keepa graphs. Like, they're not that advanced yet. They're not having people actually looking at historical data to figure out what the books are selling for. They're simply just using a scanning app as you would and taking these books that clearly have a pretty big differential between, the Amazon fees and what the book would sell for, that there's a margin there. And so they understand that, okay, well, if this book is selling or listed at $18, we should probably not put it out there on the floor in the Goodwill in the actual, local store. We should actually ship it off to an Amazon warehouse and see if it sells there. But, I buy a lot of my inventory from Goodwill, and I actually like that Goodwill sells the books on Amazon because it allows me to pick the cream of the crop. It allows me to find the books that I want to buy. Because at the end of the day, if you go thrifting, or if you do free book pickups, or you're really just networking in your local community and just finding books in your local community, you are heavily limited on the types of books that you come across. You don't really have too much control over what you actually decide to sell because your area is just too small. But on Amazon, we're looking at all 50 states where you've got tens of thousands of booksellers taking the books that they're finding in their local communities and all consolidating and bringing in one place, Amazon, where there's over 100 million different unique titles listed. And that's why I like to buy books on Amazon, is because I get to just use some parameters and some filters to go, I don't want to look at those 50 million. Yeah, take away that 20 million, take away that, 500,000, and really hone down to just a few thousand books every hour that I want to look at that I think are very profitable or have the chance of being very profitable. Is it possible to buy a book on Amazon and sell on Amazon and make profit? I mean, go back and watch any of my videos. I've got tons of videos where it says like, I made $300 a day, I made $500 a day, I made $1,000 a day. And I'll literally show you every book that day that I sold, show you how it was purchased on Amazon, what the purchase price was. I'll even show you the invoice. Then I'll show you that it actually sold on Amazon, actually show you on the order page. It's not some made up stuff, and then put it in the calculator and show you how much profit I made. So it's possible. And by the way, that's not the only model that's viable. Obviously, there's bulk book operations like Goodwill and other bulk book operations that are successful, that can sell books at cheaper prices, at lower profit margins, and do it at large bulk scale and make money doing that. Believe it or not, there's other thrifters going to the same thrift stores that you're going to that are successful because guess what? They're not buying the books that you're buying, and they're not sending the books that you're sending to Amazon. They're actually buying the better books and sending those better books to an Amazon warehouse. So let's wrap up this video. It's getting long. I'm ranting. It's 1:19 a.m. in the morning. That's how much I love you all out there. I'm making a video at 1:19 a.m. in the morning because that's when I choose to do this, to just try to help people out. And I'm sorry if I came off rude or if I came off harsh. That's really not characteristic of me, but it's my wake-up call. It's like my buckle up, buttercup. This is the real reason why you're failing. It's because of you. It's not because of Amazon. So if you're upset about Amazon's fees and you're going to die and you're going to take that to your grave, then so be it, right? Move on to something that, that's more profitable. Move on to something that you enjoy, that makes you happier. But understand that there's really just a few things you need to do to really turn this whole thing around. The number one thing is understand why the books you're sending in to Amazon are books you shouldn't be sending in. And then two, figure out a place where you can find books at a price point and a selling price point that's profitable based upon Amazon's fees. They're out there. How do I know that? Because there's tens of thousands of other people out there that are successful, that are not in the Facebook group, that are not writing those comments, that are sitting there laughing with their popcorn going, oh, here's another one of these. Oh, it's Amazon fees, the reasons why I can't succeed, right? There's plenty of people out there that are successful because they've understood how to do those things. You can do it too if you're willing to learn. But if you want to write a nasty comment and tell me how it's Amazon's fault, or how it's my fault, or YouTube's fault, or everyone else's fault but your own, feel free to do that. Understand that it's not going to have any impact on my ability to find profitable books. It's not going to make you more successful. It's certainly not going to change Amazon's fees. Amazon is certainly not going to look at your comment and go, oh, you know what, Timmy, you're right. You're right. The fees are actually too high and we're going to lower this rate. It's just, Simply not going to happen. Focus on the things that you can control. You can't control Amazon's fees, but you can control the types of books that you send to Amazon. And that's all I'm really going to say here. So sorry it was a long rant video. If you made it to the end of the video and you enjoy the content, then hit me with something in the comment. Tell me something like Keepa is king. Keepa is king in the comment section below. That's how I know you watched to the end of the video. Keepa really is king or queen. Whatever one doesn't matter to me. Keepa is king, Keepa is queen. And yeah, go out there and watch some Keepa tutorial videos. Doesn't even have to be mine. It could be somebody else's, but learn how to identify the value of a book so you can stop sending junk books to Amazon, turn this ship around, and actually see the real reason as to why your Amazon book business is failing, figure out how to make it successful, and go from there. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. Leave a comment down below. See you guys in the next one. Peace.